All right. That was really loud. Hell yeah. All right. I'm excited to be back. Oh, God. I'm excited to be back and talk about last week's shit show of games, honestly. It was a shit show of games. Um, I read a stat that was like the amount of teams that scored 26 or more points was the lowest it's been this year. And it was like two teams scored 26 or more, whereas like last week there was like 12 or something like that. So dog shit performances from like every team apparently. A lot of unders. Um, let's see, do we have any injury news going into week 7? Honestly, other than Kyron Williams potentially being out.
Yeah, that one hurts. I have a league. Well, it's our league. My running back room is Brees Hall, who's on a bye, James Conner, who is on IR, and Kyron Williams just got injured. And I had to pick up two running backs this week.
That's tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have McCaffrey who's hurt, but it looks like he'll be okay. Um, Tony Pollard's on a bye this week, and then my backup's Jahmyr Gibbs, who might not play again. So I'm in the same boat as you of just like shit. I need to hit the wire this week and hope
Every
that.
year, running backs are rough, and there's a time where there's a bunch injured. But this, I feel like, is one of the worst, with
Yeah, we have a
so
lot
many
of
rough situations.
true that. I feel like everybody's been getting hurt this year. It was probably the same as last year, but like everyone's just getting dinged up or like season-ending injuries left and right, especially to running backs. And I
Yeah.
hate it. But of course, you were smart enough to get Kyron Williams off the wire and Brees Hall in the 3rd round right before they drafted or they signed Dalvin. But yeah, you got some good backs as
And
long as
one thing,
they're actually
one thing I
healthy.
gotta say, the death of the workhorse running back is starting to just upset me as a fan, even more so than as a fantasy football player. Because as a fantasy football player, you want workhorse running backs that will get you tons of carries, tons of points, tons of opportunities. And sometimes it's like that sucks. You want that, but you understand why there's such a split in carries, and it makes sense. But
Absolutely.
as I texted you this weekend, going into the half of both the Jets and Rams game, Kyron Williams had 2 carries, and that was it. And they were solid carries. He didn't do anything wrong. He just had 2 carries, and the Rams were down to the Cardinals. And Brees Hall, obviously, the Jets weren't looking good against the Eagles. They were in competition, but not offensively. And Brees Hall, I don't remember what the exact amount of carries or anything was, but he had very few opportunities.
He had like 3.
Yeah. Going into the half, I had like 1 point from Kyron Williams and like 3 from Brees Hall. And then after the half, both teams decided, you know what, let's just give it to our best player. Let's just let him carry us. Both teams came out and won the game, obviously. The Rams much more decisive. Kyron Williams had a fantasy day in half of football because they finally decided, hey, let's just go with the talent. And and the Jets did the same thing. Not as many to Brees Hall, which I still don't understand. But when you have somebody that's a clear standout like that, you just gotta get him the ball. You just have to. No split carries. No, we paid this guy too. No, you just gotta give him the ball.
Yeah, I'm glad that's what they're doing more with Brees Hall. Like, even though they paid Dalvin Cook like what $7 million, they're like Brees Hall's the clear talent. Like, get him on the field, sort of thing,
Right.
because that's what they absolutely need to do.
And I was watching the first half. I was watching the game, and I would watch Brees Hall go in and out after almost every play he was in. They would send Michael Carter. They would send in Dalvin Cook, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like your offense is terrible. Zach Wilson cannot get you more opportunities to get Brees Hall back in the game. Just leave him in the game. Like I
Exactly.
don't understand.
It didn't make any sense, but Brees, yeah, especially after having 177 yards the week before. Like, how do
I
you
know.
not feed a guy like that?
I know. I was sitting there watching him go in and out. I'm like, you didn't even give him the ball that time, and he's already out of the game. Like, what are you doing?
Right. All right. Let's dive into a quick recap of all these games real quick. We'll start with Thursday night football. The Swifties out and happy with a Chiefs win, 19-8. Um,
Weird
there's
game.
really there's really nothing to discuss other than the fact that the Chiefs couldn't even put up 20 against Denver, and that was kind of surprising.
Yeah, especially after we watched the Dolphins put up how many points?
Fucking 70 points on them,
Yeah.
but it was pretty boring, honestly. I started to watch the first half and I was like, all right, I'm kind of done. Like was just watching for like betting purposes, and then once that was up the window by halftime, I was like, all right,
Yeah,
I don't care anymore.
it was not an interesting game. And Russell Wilson, man, what a I don't know if it was Pete Carroll that made him look good in Seattle or what it was exactly, but that was rough. He had like 57 yards going into the last drive of the game where it didn't even matter what the Chiefs defense did, and so I guess they scored. But like what is I have no clue what's going on there or
Yeah,
why.
his
Not the,
his stat line was horrific. It was I have it up. It's 13 for 22 for 95 yards, one touchdown, which came basically in garbage time, and then two interceptions. So
right. And so take
horrible.
one touchdown and bring the yards down to 50, and that's what you had going into the last drive,
Right.
which is
Yeah,
that's
it
like
was terrible. And he
yeah.
scored his touchdown with 6 minutes left in the fourth. So before that, he probably had like negative points.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough to have him start against me in fantasy, which was fantastic. Great feeling whenever you see that. So
Okay, but let's be real. It doesn't matter for you because you hang 180 on everyone's head because you have fucking Tua and Tyreek. It doesn't matter if they had fucking Russell Wilson or if they had like a 50-point Lamar Jackson game. You're hanging 180 no matter what.
I genuinely think I have one of the most stacked fantasy teams of all time. Between
That
my waiver wire
pisses me
pickups
off.
and my initial draft, I love this team more than I've ever loved a fantasy team that I've had.
I know. I'm hating it honestly. We're like I don't know. All I have to say is I'm second in scoring and I'm just hit 3-3. I'm upset, but regardless, it's fine. Moving on to Sunday, we got another London game, and this one was actually kind of interesting up until the end. Um, let's see. Shit, my brain's blanking. Sorry. Ravens had 24, Titans had 16. Kind of a closer one in the middle of the game until the Tennessee Titans decided, oh, wait, we have Ryan fucking Tannehill in the game. So let's just pull him out. And
Well, no, he got injured, and actually, I think
oh, I didn't even realize he got injured. I just thought they
yeah,
benched him.
yeah, we're not even sure on his status for the season yet, or maybe not the season, but at least the next coming games. And so I guess that's an injury we should have talked about. But yeah, it actually the downhill is when Ryan Tannehill got taken out. Not the complete downhill, I guess, because it was already not great. But um, one
Yeah,
thing that I think is interesting about this game is if you look at the stats, Derrick Henry had 12 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown. You look at that and you're like, wow, that is amazing. But throughout most of the game, he had nothing. That was basically just done on one or two carries. I'm pretty sure he had like 10 for 18 or something going into late game. And
yeah,
I got to say, I'm worried for Derrick Henry both as his career and as a even fantasy starter, depending on who else is on your roster.
yeah. I think this is a perfect like sell high spot for him if you have him, because like you said, he had 12 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown, but his longest run was 63 yards, which Derrick Henry will pull those kind of yards or those kind of runs out whenever. But if you take that away, doing the math, he would have had 11 carries for 34 yards. And I think his touchdown was like a 1 yarder. So, of course, he had that.
Yeah.
And he got two carries, or I'm sorry, he got two catches for 16 yards. So, an adequate fantasy day all around. But if he didn't have that 63-yard carry, you would be looking at this as another mediocre game from Derrick Henry. So if you still have him for whatever reason and you can get rid of him for a hole in your roster at either another running back spot or receiver spot, I would try and get rid of him. I did
Yeah.
that in a league a couple weeks ago and was able to trade up for Amon-Ra St. Brown. So
Oh, well
do
done.
something
Well
like
done.
that.
Well
I
done. You
was
can
real
never get
happy
him
about
from
that.
me, so not in our league, but
It was the guy in my league that just lost Nick Chubb, so I was able to just straight up trade Henry for Amon-Ra. It was beautiful.
it is beautiful. Well, the tough thing about this situation too is that like it's been like this for almost every game this season because they don't have a good enough passing games for teams to be like we don't have to commit to the run, and so they run commit and they just shut Derrick Henry down way too easily. And there are times while watching these games I'm like, wow, like maybe Derrick Henry's just lost it. You know, he's in that age where you can lose it, and then you see one of the runs where he doesn't get hit behind the line of scrimmage, and you're like, oh no, he's still good. It's the Titans that are the problem.
Yeah. And like he does have the worst O line in the league too, so it is something to think about. But it's hard to see Derrick Henry as the guy that he was when he's putting up dud weeks like he has been, but he'll have these occasional weeks, like these occasional good weeks, and that's why I think it's like a good time to get him out of there. And Derrick Henry's not the kind of back to only get 12 carries either, so that's also kind of weird to me because he
Oh,
normally gets like 25.
also, big takeaway from this game and going into um, the next however many weeks is without Ryan Tannehill. I think DeAndre Hopkins is a
Unstartable.
non-starter. Yeah,
He's not
unstartable.
startable.
Yeah, so that's just something to take away from that game.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's like we said, he's unstartable. Um, I don't even really remember his stats. I think it was one catch for 20 yards. Yeah, it was on 5 targets. So
Yeah,
if you're desperate, flex him, but I would just stay away from him
yeah.
and find someone else. Um, the next game, fucking Falcons fans, you guys
Okay.
suck.
Wait,
You
wait,
guys
wait,
suck.
wait. Can I start this one because I have so much to say here.
Yeah, I just wanted to shit on the Falcons, but go
That's
for
fair. No, that's fair.
it.
I am somebody who actually loves this Falcons roster, and I love watching them play. And I cannot believe they're 3-3. I think they should be much better.
Shush.
Well, firstly, can we talk about how good Drake London looked when he finally was getting thrown the ball?
Well, yeah,
He's
if you have a
he's
good receiver, he'll do good once you actually throw it to them. They
right,
just
but there
never
there are
do.
receivers all the time where you're like, oh, like he could be really good if like this happens, if this happens. That's a really good receiver. But he is genuinely superstar talent if he gets thrown the ball. And
True.
I don't know if he's the reason that they're trying to pass more in this offense or what, but if they get this working even slightly, this team's going to be dangerous with him and Kyle Pitts and the rebirth of Jonnu Smith. Like I no,
Best
this
tight
roster
end on the
is
team.
this roster genuinely has so much potential, and I'm actually going out to try and get Drake London in leagues that I don't have him because I think it will, and Kyle Pitts because I think that Arthur Smith is realizing that hey, passing the ball is not only not a bad option in general, but can actually be done with this squad. So, and they even
Well,
went to get Van Jefferson, so that's got to tell you something.
true. Uh, it's kind of weird to me how they kind of reverse their normal plan of like run heavy. Because they did run the ball like 28 times this game, so that is a decent bit, but it wasn't really good at all for Falcons O line. That's like one of the best run blocking teams. They only had 13 for 51 out of Algier and 13 for 37 out of Bijan, but Ritter threw the ball 47 times this game, which is kind of insane. And you'd think like, oh, he threw the ball 47 times and threw for over 300 yards. He had a good game, right? Well, he threw for 3 picks and choked the game at the end. So keep talking your shit, Falcons fans, but you guys still don't have a
Hey,
franchise
if you're a
quarterback.
Falcons fan, I would keep talking it because I think that they're going to figure it
No.
out this season. I do. They're going to be sneaky contenders.
The thing is that division is still wide open because the Bucks didn't play week 5, so they're what 3-2 now, and
And
Saints
they
and
should they
Falcons are
should
both 3-3. So it's a wide open division.
I don't expect them to be positive any of the rest of the season. So
The Bucks, I hope not. I do not need to see the Bucks win the fucking division with Baker fucking
yeah,
Mayfield.
yeah. If that happens, then all other fans of teams in that division just need to
I will
just quit.
become
Ask
I'll
your teams to
become a
move
fan of a
somewhere
different
else.
team.
Maybe ask another team to move to your city or state. Um,
Agreed. All right.
oh, real quick here too. Brian Robinson in the last couple of games has not been producing the output that he did initially, and he got in the end zone, which was good. But I do expect that to pick up. So that is one of my continue to start, or I'd say go out and get. And I'm actively trying, but people keep declining my trades, so I guess they don't think too lowly of him.
Yeah.
But not a bad attempt.
Also, I think as like someone you should start for next week, like if I had to pick a like top 3 stardom receivers, I would do Terry McLaurin against the Giants next week. Um, he did pretty solid against, or at least I think he did pretty solid against the
He
Falcons.
got
Now
targeted a lot. It didn't end in
he had
what you wanted, but it wasn't terrible.
yeah, 11 targets, 6 catches, 81 yards. The Giants have been getting decimated on defense, in their secondary. So I think Terry McLaurin could go for a touchdown and another 80-yard game. So I would start him next week. But let's
I
keep
wouldn't
recapping
speak too
this.
soon. Josh Allen couldn't do much on him.
Well, the Bills are just fucking just decimated. I don't know. We'll get to that because
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell happened there. But next game on the slate that we have was the Bengals and the Seahawks, which was like a barn burner at first, and then it just turned into a very defensive game. 17-13, Bengals win it. They are doing exactly what they did last year, and they shit the bed for the first 2-3 games, and then they come back and start winning games. Um, Joe Burrow still doesn't look that fantastic. You know, he looked great against a shit Cardinals defense last week and did okay. He did enough in this game. But in reality, it was the defense that won them their game. And yeah, the Bengals,
Yeah.
they ride on. They have a bye week
There's
this week, but then they have an impossible schedule next week, or after next week, starting with like the 49ers and Bills. So
yeah. Yeah, no, they've got a tough schedule coming up. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And that was a hot take beginning of the season, but now a lot of people are on board with that. So suck it. But two big takeaways from this game are, like you said, the Bengals defense are what's actually carrying them right now, which I did not expect. They actually look like a really good defense. Um, and then the Seahawks offensive line is just continuing to suck. I feel bad for Gino because he is just getting hit after hit after hit. And the thing is, watching him too, is he actually makes plays last a lot longer than you would expect from other quarterbacks. And I think even more of the plays that are bad could happen if he wasn't getting out of those situations. And so I think I'm looking for other quarterbacks in my leagues where I have Geno. If you do, I know a lot of people weren't as high as him on the beginning of the season as I was. Maybe you don't, but solely due to the offensive line, because when he gets the chance to throw, he still looks amazing. I don't know if you saw some of it. He hit some of those dots to Tyler Lockett like he was last season. Not for touchdowns, obviously, but he's still throwing the ball amazingly. And I think Tyler Lockett is a good start going forward. DK Metcalf, also glad I was out on because he has not looked great, and he looks like he's a genuine burden to the team with his anger. So
yeah, that's always funny to watch, honestly.
also, last bit, sorry, T. Higgins. I said I wouldn't draft him to the 5th round beginning of the season. That's looking too nice.
You wait, what? You cut out.
Remember, I wasn't drafting T. Higgins anywhere unless it was 5th round or later.
Yeah, he
And
wasn't. He's not doing too good.
no,
Not
he
doing
is
too
not.
hot.
I didn't see why everybody wanted him so early, and I mean, it's coming to life.
Yeah, we called this out beginning of season. He said fade him. He should not be a top 15 wide receiver like he was going. And this is why. Because 4 targets on the day, and Tyler Boyd had 7. Mixon had 4, and Jamar Chase, of course, had like 13. So clearly not getting the target share you want to see. Let's hope you just didn't draft him, honestly, because he just did not do good.
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to trade him either, so you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, you're kind of fucked. Speaking of someone that I want to trade and probably can't trade, we'll go to Jacksonville and the Colts game. Calvin Ridley once again did jack shit, and it's really annoying that it's a weekly basis almost at this point. Jacksonville, though, on their week back from London, came out and destroyed the Colts 37-20. Minshew 3 interceptions, although he threw for over 300 yards, so that was pretty cool to see. Lawrence came out with a knee injury or an ankle injury, I think, in this one. So crossing my fingers, he does not play Thursday against the Saints so that we can get a lucky win there. But overall, a pretty solid game from like Christian Kirk, who had 49 yards and a touchdown. Evan Ingram continues to be a PPR starter. He got 7 catches for 40 yards in this one. So a solid PPR tight end, but if you're doing like standard for whatever dumb reason, probably not a good tight end for you. And then Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss is kind of a weird situation because they both combined for 40 yards rushing, which is not good. But then they both got like over 6 targets and 30 something yards receiving. So they both did really good in their receiving games, just not good rushing for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think that Zach Moss established himself enough that unless they trade him, it's going to be like this rest of the season. Um, Especially because I don't think they're going to be too competitive, and especially Anthony Richardson possibly out for season. They're not going to want to overuse Jonathan Taylor either.
Yeah.
So I don't expect much from that. If you could trade him away, I would. Um, I have a question for you when it comes to Calvin Ridley, though. Do you think this is a Calvin Ridley issue, a coaching issue, or a Trevor Lawrence issue? Because I didn't realize just how bad it was. He had one reception for -4 yards. Is
He
that
was.
just?
Oh, that was his rushing. That was his rushing.
Oh,
He
okay.
had
Yeah, my fault. I was looking at the wrong thing. I was like, that's not even possible, is it?
still still he didn't do good. He had like four catches, I think, for 30 yards. Yeah,
Yeah,
four for
yeah,
30. So he had 8 targets. So I don't know if it's a Ridley issue. I think it was at first because he was dropping a decent amount of passes. But he is the most targeted, at least against the Colts. He was the most targeted receiver. So I don't know if it's Ridley dropping balls or if it's Lawrence just not being able to find Ridley and not forming a good connection yet. But we got to get some shit going. Like, Jags were such a high powered offense on paper going into the year, and it just hasn't always shown itself as that. I mean, they're 4-2 for a reason, but I think it's a lot because of their defense. So I don't know. I'm hoping they can get some get right games with Ridley there.
yeah. I think they will. I don't think there's any way that he doesn't progress throughout the season at least. But so far, it's been regression, so maybe not.
Yeah, and I don't I would be sitting like Ridley, uh,
Yeah,
potentially Evan Ingram too this week against the Saints. Not to be biased, obviously, but the Saints have like the second. Or no, I'm sorry, that's for rush defense. They have the second best rush defense. So ETN, I would start with like a grain of salt, maybe as a
yeah.
flex, but they are the best against tight ends. So for
I think
me, I'm
he.
sitting Evan Ingram in my league.
Yeah, I think in most rosters you have to start ATN, but I will say he hasn't been super efficient this season, but he has gotten a lot of touchdowns and is looking good fantasy wise.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not very efficient in this game either, but obviously great fantasy day. So,
Yeah.
um, and Michael Pittman, I think with Minshew under center is going to be solid all season. The rest of the season,
Yeah. I think
14 targets is just insane.
it's ridiculous. I think that was mostly in part because they were down a lot, but I don't expect the Colts to be up a lot for most
Yeah,
of the season. So you can probably expect a weekly 6 catch game from Michael Pittman for like 70 yards. I think that his floor is pretty high now and might be like a buy candidate right now in your leagues, like to go trade for him. Um, Another buy candidate that you could potentially get is Adam Thielen on the Panthers.
oh my.
Looking at the Miami Dolphins and the Panthers game, obviously Miami romped the Panthers. At first, the Panthers were destroying Miami, but then they went like what 28 or 35 unanswered points.
You have no
So
idea how excited I was when they were down 14-0. I was like, I thought this was going to be a game where Tua was not going to have to throw the ball after the first quarter. And then I was like, he's going to have to throw it. And I am so excited. And it's exactly what happened.
yeah, he threw for what 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. Of course, majority of that was the Tyreek Hill
Yes,
um,
sir.
for your fucking fantasy team. But I bring up Thielen because this is his second week in a row that he had over 100 yards and a touchdown. I was able to pick him up in fantasy football in our league, and he has voted me very, very well. So if you are down a receiver or if you are looking for a good receiver spot, kind of fill in, I think Thielen's pretty good, especially because Carolina is pretty much always losing and will always be down. And Thielen is now just set in stone as the guy, I feel like, for Carolina. Nothing else to really talk about, though, honestly. Like, Raheem Mostert did really good, but A-Chain will be back in about 4 weeks, along with Salvin Ahmed and Jeff Wilson's coming off of IR. So it's going to be a crowded backfield, honestly. So I don't know who you'd want out of that, but obviously Mostert or A-Chain,
Yeah.
personally.
Until then, Raheem is just going to be absolutely dominant.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not somebody you can not start until those players get back.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just going to dominate week in and week out, no matter the matchup. He gets enough receiving work too to to be viable there if he's not doing good on the ground. So Bryce Young looked okay, 217 yards, 1 touchdown, no turnovers. So hopefully for Panthers fans, he can keep it up, but it just did not look good. Another game, I'm loving these segues, by the way. Another game
Hold
that
on,
didn't look good. Oh,
just
you
real
want to go
quick
back?
while we're here. Is there any chance he'll give me Adam Thielen?
No. I mean, like, unless you want to give me some good players to help me, then no. I need Thielen. Thielen's my boy. Ridley
That's
sucks. Thielen rocks. That's the motto now.
that's fair. And I was trying to find it, but I can't find it anywhere. I'm pretty sure Adam Thielen is the number like he's top 5 on the season at least in fantasy points for wide receivers, which is absolutely insane.
I wouldn't doubt that, especially for PPR, since he's getting like 10 catches a game.
Yep.
Oh, he's popping off. I love it. I love to see it. But moving to a divisional game that looked like shit, we're going to the Vikings and the Bears. Vikings are desperately missing Justin Jefferson. Kirk only had 180 yards against a pretty poor Chicago defense.
Very poor.
Hawkinson looks like the one there with 8 targets. And for some reason, Jordan Addison had a mediocre game, only having 5 targets and getting 3 catches, 28 yards, and a touchdown. Obviously, he got the touchdown, so good week for him overall, but nobody looked really good on the Vikings. They just all kind of looked mid and were able to pull out a win because Justin Fields did not look good at all and ended up getting hurt, and his backup wasn't that good either. So I think DJ Moore is a sell right now because we don't really know how long Justin Fields will be out. He's a sell if Justin Fields is out for a long time. If he's not, obviously you just kind of have to stash him on your bench for a little bit.
All right. I disagree with that because where I'm at with DJ Moore is the same as where I'm at with Breece Hall and Kyron Williams. And it's like watching the whole first half, you're like, where is this guy? You know, like, why aren't you throwing to the best receiver who the game you won this season, you threw to him nonstop. And finally, in the second half, they did, and they started manufacturing targets to him, like even like screens and the stuff that I was talking about at the beginning of the season that you love to see, where they're intentionally making sure he gets the ball, not like having the quarterback even make the decision, like just get him the ball. And even with Justin Fields out, they were doing that, and they focused on that, and they realized that they were idiots in the first half. And so I'm actually not wanting to sell him at all. And actually, I would kind of use this as, hey, you had a down week and Justin Fields is out. I'd actually try and go get him, in my opinion.
Fair enough. I like that perspective of it, honestly.
You can say all Bears running backs going forward, for sure.
Yeah. No, there's nobody good there. Roshan Johnson's coming back potentially, so that might be a good matchup against the Raiders next week. But I wouldn't try and start him. The next matchup we got, what the hell even happened in this game, honestly, is the 49ers and the Browns was just such a weird game because at first, like, 49ers came out up 10 by the middle of the second quarter. Of course, McCaffrey got his touchdown for the 15th straight game for him. But then the Browns somehow just came back slowly but surely thanks to field goals left and right and ended up winning this game. Brock Purdy didn't look great at all, but obviously the Browns are the best defense in the league statistically, so not surprising there. PJ Walker obviously didn't look that great, but did enough to get the job done. So Browns took down one of the best teams in the league, and it was probably one of the most weird and parlay breaking games of this week.
Yeah. First of all, for some reason, I love PJ Walker. I don't know what it is. I think it was just after that throw to DJ Moore that I've loved him.
I think it is, yeah.
And, so I honestly like seeing him succeed in that. I'm not too worried about the 49ers going forward. I think this is a statement based on the Browns' defense and how good it's been all season, in opposition to the fact that the 49ers offense struggled. I don't think it's going to struggle like that again. Don't even think it's because McCaffrey and Debo are out. I think they can function just fine going forward without, not just fine, because obviously star players, but still plenty well. Um, I think this is just the Browns defense being insane this year. Um, Also, I love seeing the Browns win without Deshaun Watson. So
Yeah, yeah. I think I can root for them more when Deshaun Watson's not starting. Um, but to give the 49ers the benefit of the doubt, obviously, like you said, Debo is out. McCaffrey got hurt late in the game, which obviously hurt their ability to come back and win. And then George Kittle only had one catch for 1 yard on one target. And I've read that that's mostly because he was used more as a blocker because he is a good blocker and was used to try and like double up on uh, Myles Garrett and chip him, which makes sense. So not surprising he didn't have a great week, but um, Brandon Ayuk, 4 catches, 76 yards, I think is the guy to own in San Francisco if Debo misses time, or just in general. I think he's going to emerge this year as the 49ers wide receiver one. On the flip
yeah,
side, you start Cooper almost every week. Um, Even, I guess, regardless of match or regardless of quarterback, PJ Walker 192 yards and then Amari Cooper had 108. So,
yeah. And here's the thing that I'm actually thinking here is that 4 for 108 is a stat line you don't see too often for numbers like that, unless you're maybe Tyreek Hill. Um, and actually, what I was just talking about, how the throw I love from PJ Walker. PJ Walker gives me Baker Mayfield vibes, where he's not always going to be the greatest quarterback, but he's weirdly solid on deep balls. Um, so I actually like Amari Cooper more than I did before. Um, and both running backs actually had solid fantasy days in this game for the Browns. I don't think that's going to continue going forward, but it also was against the 49ers defense, so maybe it will. They supported Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt before, but I wouldn't expect that week to week, and I'd be cautious, even though I might have to start Kareem Hunt this week uh, due,
yeah,
to, due to having zero running backs. So
I definitely get that. I might have to start whoever the third string is for the Browns. Who knows? Um, I don't want to move on to this next game, but Saints and Texans. Texans won 20-13. The Saints did it to themselves. Derek Carr threw the ball 50 times, and we had like 2 red zone drives that got stalled out either because we went for it on 4th down and missed it, or we missed a field goal. Our kicker was 2 of 4, so we could have easily won this game if we just made a fucking field goal or scored. I'm sorry, if we would have scored a touchdown on the red zone drive that stalled out and then made one of our field goals, we would have won this game. Um, Texans played well on defense and offense. Stroud did not that great, honestly, but obviously did well enough to win the game. Derek Carr threw for 350 yards. The guys to play, obviously, you're starting Olave every week, and I think he will be a good start on Thursday and probably a guy that I think can get a sneaky 100-yard game on the Jags.
yeah,
Kamara is doing really well. He's an every week start. He's getting touches after touches after touches.
for
8 targets for him, I think, is insane. Um, Taysom Hill, 8 targets, 7 catches, I think is something that's kind of a fluke because we had to throw the ball 50 times.
actually,
Uh,
I want to talk about that after you're done. Um,
yeah, so I think the guys that are must starts going forward every week is Olave, um, and Kamara. I think on the flip side, Nico Collins, again, you're starting him every week. Other than that, it's just fluke games here and there. Rashid Shaheed is a good kind of someone you can occasionally bet on to do well, but not someone you expect to get 85 yards and a touchdown every week. But go ahead and let's talk about our boy, Taysom Hill.
I've never understood what the Saints are doing with Taysom Hill. So you have this player who's like a weird athlete who doesn't, I guess, fit in exactly in any enough position to play all the time. But every once in a while, you'll throw him in there, and for some reason, whenever you throw him in there, it's usually successful. Which, if it's usually successful, then why is he not in there more?
It
And it's a constant. What is going on?
it is my
Um,
probably my biggest annoyance as a Saints fan, seeing him touch the ball like 2 fucking times a game. Like we're clearly seeing since our tight end is hurt that Taysom Hill is a decent enough tight end to get 7 catches for 50 yards.
yeah,
We also don't let him run the ball at all. 1 carry for 2 yards? Like, what the fuck is that? No,
And
give him 5 to 8 carries a game. Like,
I completely agree, and that's actually why I want to talk about it. 'Cause I think that's going to continue. Like, he even got a pass in this game too. If you got a guy that can do all this, let him do all this. Don't just be like, okay, I guess in this game we'll let it happen once or twice. Like, just continue to do it. I mean, 7 for 49 on 8 targets is a solid stat line. It's not a crazy amount of yards, but he's a tight end, and that means the targets are getting caught. I'm not gonna lie. There's 1 or 2 games every week that are just tough to watch. That I end up looking at every other game on my screens before I look at this one. But so I didn't really watch this game all too much. But I mean, some of it's got to speak for itself, and I'm actually interested in him as an option this week as a tight end and going forward.
yeah, I'll wrap it up by saying that our offensive coordinator fucking sucks, and he needs to be getting targeted 5 or more times a game. He needs to be running the ball 5 to 8 times a game, and he needs to be throwing the ball 5 to 8 times a game. Like, we need to get him involved on all positions, but we won't because we're stupid and we want to lose. So
Ooh,
that's always
also,
fun.
important thing here is that um, Singletary outsnapped Damian Pierce, who is
Yeah,
good continuously. Um, so that's just something to. I would not start Damian Pierce anywhere, and if you were going to start Damian Pierce, you might as well pick up Singletary and start him instead. Um,
yeah, agreed. Bizarre to me, but I think it showed on the stat sheet that Singletary was doing a lot better. So, um, yeah, I would be very cautious starting Damian Pierce going forward. Um, Next game was such a great game to watch. Love watching Mac Jones, future Hall of Famer, and future Hall of Famer Jimmy Garoppolo go at it. Loved watching that game.
this is another one of those games where I was like, I'm watching all of the other 4 o'clock games before I turn my eyes to this screen.
Absolutely. I
Just,
paid probably zero attention to this game. Um, this game, honestly, uh, this might this game might have cost Mac Jones his job. I'm not gonna lie. He's just been shit all year. 200 yards and a pick. Um, there's nothing to say there. The Patriots' offense is shit. They need Tom Brady back desperately. The Raiders' offense also wasn't that great, but their defense helped winning the game with that safety like at the very end of the game. I
yeah.
will say though something to take away. Um, 2 things actually. Sorry. One, Devontae Adams only getting 2 catches for 29 yards on 5 targets does worry me,
Yeah.
considering that they threw the ball like 30 something times. He should be getting much better than that.
Jimmy loves Jacoby. I don't know what it is, but
I was going to say that was my second takeaway is Jacoby Myers is becoming a weekly flex or wide receiver to play. I mean, the dude had 5 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. So I don't know what it is. Jacoby's just popping off, and I'm here for it. I am fucking here for it. Um, and Michael Mayer emerging all of a sudden, getting 5 catches, 75 yards was pretty interesting.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, this was just a shit show. Not much to take away there. Both teams suck. And New England just sucks harder. That's really all it is.
Yeah, yeah. I predicted Patriots to go what, like 2-15 this season or something, and I
I
think
think
it's
we both did.
definitely possible. Um,
I think we both did.
here's from a football standpoint though, with Mac Jones, I understand as a coach that you want to give a guy the full keys. You don't want him to lose confidence and like worry about their job getting taken. You want to commit to somebody, and that's what Belichick did, and he's done that before with like Brady, and it's worked out, and it works out plenty of times. But there comes a point where you just got to realize this is not your quarterback. This is not an NFL quarterback,
No.
and he to me is in the same category as Zach Wilson. Too many opportunities to still be doing the things you're doing. Um, Whereas like Justin Fields has shown spurts of being able to get the job done, being able to progress both with his legs and with his arm at this point. Um, but these two have not, and there's just a point where you just gotta be like, okay, you've had your time. We gotta go with somebody else, and we gotta play some real NFL football.
Yeah, exactly. It's, they can't keep fucking going back to him. So just needs to go. We'll move on to the Lions and the Buccaneers. And the Lions are probably one of the few teams that can be so one-dimensional in a game and still just absolutely destroy the other team. David Montgomery left with an injury. Looks like he'll probably miss a week or two. So they were very one-dimensional passing. But the Sun God, 12 catches, 124 yards, and a touchdown on 15 targets. And a guy that did not do that great this game, and Sam Laporta only getting 4 catches for like 35 yards. But he had 11 targets, which is very, very lovely to see, especially with Jameson Williams coming back. To see that Laporta is the 2 right now, seemingly. Like nobody else eclipsed more than 3 targets except for St. Brown and Laporta, and both of them had over 10 targets. So if for some reason you are in a tight end rut, go out and get Sam Laporta. He's probably cheaper than majority of the tight ends out there, especially after a mediocre week this week. And then on the flip side, Mike Evans, 10 targets, didn't have a great game. Chris Godwin had a solid game. Anything you want to take away from this kind of weird game?
I think that the Tampa Bay offense is going to look like it did this week every week. I'm not starting a single person in that offense unless I absolutely have to. Obviously, love seeing the Sun God go crazy. I'm going to start him every week from here on out. And
I was going to say,
as bad as this. Well, okay, we got to talk about this real quick because my receiver room is stacked to the point where I'm not sure if I want to start on Raw. Tyreek, DJ Moore, Amon-Ra, Keenan Allen, Puka Nacua, and Nico Collins. And that is...
I think I can speak for everyone where you need to start Tyreek, Keenan Allen, and Amon-Ra, depending on the matchup.
I know, but like last week I started DJ, and he got, 60-plus points? Like, I mean... and Nico Collins got like 50 the week before that. Puka obviously was getting steady, like 20, 30-plus. I'm trying to trade these guys, but nobody will take them. So I guess nobody wants good receivers.
I mean, I'll take Nico Collins and Puka for Jahmyr Gibbs.
I don't want Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's actually the next thing I was going to talk about with this. Is even with Jahmyr Gibbs back, I'm worried about his productivity because they are not giving him the ball as much as we expected. They honestly would probably Craig Reynolds might get more touches than Jahmyr Gibbs.
I was just about to say I would not be shocked if Craig Reynolds got the same or more carries and targets, or at least catches, than Jahmyr Gibbs next week, assuming that Montgomery does not play and Gibbs does. Yeah. But I'm so pissed off. I fucking drafted him instead of like Keenan Allen or some shit.
That's what I took in the 3rd round.
So upset. It's gonna haunt me for a while. That's for sure. Yeah, next game that was a bit of a butt clincher until the second half. Rams 26, Cardinals 9. It was like 9-6 going into half, but then the Rams did what the Rams do best and passed it to Cooper Kupp and ran it with Kyren Williams. Literally all they needed to do, and they won this game. So once Kyren Williams is healthy, weekly start, Kupp is a top 3 receiver, top 4 receiver again. But Puka, even though he was the second targeted receiver, didn't do that great. So are we worried that he's going to kind of dip in productivity this year? How are you feeling about that?
Obviously, he's going to dip a little bit because Cooper Kupp is one of the few, obviously, just straight football standouts. Just football in general, not even just receivers. Like, he's just a fantastic player. So you got to expect some dip, but that chemistry has already been built. And like you said, 7 targets. He got plenty of targets last week too. There are some offenses like the Eagles or Dolphins where you can start the starting 2 receivers. And I think this is one of them. Obviously you guys are going to have low weeks no matter what. Even Cooper Kupp can potentially have like a 10-point or less week, but I would continue to keep him in your flex consideration at all times, depending on who your receivers are, maybe even a wide receiver too. I think we'll be just fine going forward. And as much as I hate to say it, I would start him against the Steelers defense, and is one of the reasons I'm once again having trouble deciding who to start this week.
You're starting the Sun God, regardless.
I know, but it's like matchups too, and I have all these good receivers. Like I genuinely want to get rid of some of them so I don't have to make a decision and then be upset when I have, like, if I did DJ Moore with 60 on my bench. So
True. That is that. That's fair. I can,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can, I can agree with you there. I would agree with that though. Stafford only threw the ball 24 times last game, and he only completed 15 of his passes, and half of them were to Cooper Kupp. So I don't think we should be stressing out too much about Puka this game. I think it's kind of a worry going forward in games where they will be up big, but
I think Stafford will throw more too, so
I think
I
that
would I
I
wouldn't worry
think
about
Stafford will
that.
throw more, especially with Kyron Williams being out. I think he the Rams are gonna have to throw more. Anyways, all right, 3 games left on the slate. Let's knock them out. Jets beat the Eagles 20-14. Kind of a weird one. Obviously, the Jets defense is pretty stellar, and they made Hurts throw 3 picks, which was kind of crazy. And your boy Brees Hall went off
Yep.
a little
And
bit.
once they finally gave him the ball, he did. When they didn't give him the ball, he didn't. When they gave him the ball, he did. I mean, it's that simple. You give him the ball, he goes off. You don't give him the ball, he doesn't go off. I don't understand. There's not much else to it.
It's not science, that's for sure. It's just giving the ball. Um, I will say Garrett Wilson had a good game, which is nice to see for Garrett Wilson owners that drafted him in like the second round, assuming he was going to be the next like Jerry Rice this year. Brees Hall did well in the receiving game. Player that I am worried about on the flip side is Devontae Smith. He had the most targets, which was nice, but was only able to produce 5 catches for 44 yards, and has just been kind of a downer recently. Ever since AJ Brown complained on the sideline like 3 weeks ago, and AJ Brown 7 catches, 130 yards, his like third or fourth straight 125 plus yard game. So I'm kind of worried about Devontae Smith going forward, but
Yeah,
AJ Brown apparently is a must start.
yeah, I am too. Just because of what you said too, it's just so sad to me because DK acts out like that. Like he gives me DK vibes. DK acts out like that, and Pete
Yeah,
Carroll's not like, okay, we're just going to give you the ball every time now. Whereas the Eagles, I feel like, give in to AJ Brown, and I don't think it's the reason their offense is sputtering. So it was sputtering before that too. But Devonta Smith is good enough that you got to get him the ball too, and you got to find, whether it's giving it to different guys or what, you got to find a way to get this offense going. They have too many playmakers not to. Um, the Jets defense is insane. I think there's 4 defenses in the league that are carrying their teams right now, and just because if they get a little help from the offense, are genuine contenders. And that is the Jets, the Steelers, the Browns, and the Cowboys. All those defenses are just absolutely carrying right now. The Jets defense, the Jets are 3-3 with Zach Wilson, which is just wow.
so funny.
Um, and I hope Aaron Rodgers truly does come back this season, even if it's just for the playoffs, and makes this team into what it should be. Because, wow. Literally, their defense is their whole team, aside from when they give the ball to Brees Hall. But when they don't give the ball to Brees Hall, then it's just their defense. So,
Bottom line or takeaway from this podcast is just give Brees Hall the fucking ball. That's
give
all
Brees
we
Hall the
need.
ball. Seriously, I don't understand. Every time he got the ball last year, they won games. They were the same team they are this year, but they won more games because they gave the ball to Brees Hall.
Yeah, it's
Like,
again against Denver, like 20 plus carries, 177 yards.
right?
If you
Like
take away anything from this podcast,
he's
it's
the
that Brees
only
Hall
he's
needs
the
more
only running
touches.
back in the league that can do that. The only one. The only one. Like it's so simple to me. I don't get it. But
Agreed.
um, yeah. And then you ready to go into this night game here? That was just
I don't even want to, dude. This
all right.
game
I'm gonna start
sucked.
this one because I have a lot of fun things to say for this one. Um, Firstly, Saquon looked just like Derrick Henry, but I'm not worried about that against the Bills' defensive line. He's going to do fine going forward,
Yep.
and I actually might try and trade for him if you can. Like, oh, he was injured. He didn't do great last game back. Like, I'd try and go get him if you can, but I don't think you'll be able to. Stephon Diggs is an absolute dog, and you have to start him every week, no matter what. Tyrod Taylor, I thought looked better than Daniel Jones. They
The
just put his name on
God.
the board. Um,
He
Both
did
in
good.
scrambling ability, pocket presence, throwing, I guess, is about the same though. But I mean, uh, that's the Giants have a tough situation on their hands. Um, and actually, I'm so disappointed for Tyrod Taylor because he led them on that drive to possibly win the game, and then
They
when
should
he
have won
threw
that
it
game.
when they threw it to Darren Waller in the end zone, he literally held onto him and stopped his arm from going up to even catch the ball. Um, Very stupid call. Should have been at least another chance in the end zone. Um, so that was very disappointing.
Yeah.
Um, and the Bills' offense is the same as, or what I was worried about from last season, where they should be good, but for some reason things just aren't clicking and they're not going anywhere. Um, I think it is a worry going forward. If they play a team like the Dolphins again, like that, they're just not going to win. Straight up, simple as that.
Yeah.
So,
Their one good game this year was against the Dolphins. Everything else has just been some mediocre performances. Or I guess they did beat the crap out of whoever. Their 3 wins before this, they beat the crap out of the teams like the Raiders, Washington, and then the Dolphins. But other than that, they've been mediocre, and their 2 of their 3 wins were against bad teams. Um, so I am worried about the Bills. I get their 4-2. That's great. Stephon Diggs, great no matter what, even with Allen throwing for less than 170 yards. But their team's not looking good
and the
right
interesting
now.
thing here too is James Cook was not involved in the passing game at all.
Yeah,
Um,
that was weird to me too. He did well on the ground, 14 carries, 71 yards, over 5 a carry, but not even targeted once in the passing game, which is very odd
yeah.
and something to be worried about, considering that the Bills were down basically the whole game. Um,
Thankfully, I think that's something they'll look at and change, and they'll be like, okay, why did he not get the ball at all? Because he really is good enough that he should be getting the ball at least still some in the passing game.
Allen thing that needs to be worked through, honestly.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, Giants should have won that game, like you said. Pass interference at the end. They just didn't want to call it twice in a row.
yeah.
Um,
Which I mean I get let him play or whatever, but when it's he literally stopped his arm
when
from
it's
going up.
that
This is
blatant, you have to
right.
call it.
And I even get it like for like real time or from where the ref was standing, like it's hard to tell. That's fine, sure, don't call it. But we live in 2023 where everything is viewable from every angle at all times to understand what actually happened during the play. Just be like, oh hey, that was pass interference. Let's redo the play. I like it's that simple. Um,
It's not that
I
hard.
heard somebody say that they need to have like orange challenge flags or like a different color that they throw, and it's like I'm pretty sure that was pass interference, but I don't want to call it yet. So I guess we'll just make sure we review it. And that was honestly the best idea I've heard. Like get a different color flag out there, throw it, and then it's like okay, we might have a penalty here. Like let's review the play. Fantastic.
I don't mind it, honestly. It's gonna piss a lot of people off, but I don't mind
why would it piss you off though? That just means that your team is getting wins because of
it.
bad calls. Like I don't like imagine if that Saints playoff game years ago
That's
that
what
they
I'm
had
saying.
that.
You
Like just
know for a damn fact as a Saints fan, I'm down for any sort of pass interference review, anything. Like we need it because we don't need a fucking repeat of that. But who knows? I think that would be a good idea, honestly. Though, just get some way to be able to review more of
right.
those kind of fucking
Or
things.
like or like game ending roughing the passer calls. Like literally just review it. Be like, oh hey, he actually didn't do anything wrong. Like it's not their ball for free with first down. I just like I don't get it. But
I don't know. It's dumb. But to wrap up our week 6 slate, um, Cowboys somehow came out on top. I kind of thought that the Chargers were going to win this one, but
yeah,
they came out on top. Tony Pollard looked like dog shit again for like the 4th straight week on the ground, but had a
it's not
six.
his fault though. It's
It,
not.
it, it wasn't. It's the coaching. They're using him as like a bruiser back, as they're like sending him up the middle when they need to be running him to the outside, and they're not doing it, and it's so annoying.
They
Um,
need to get the Dolphins playbook because what they do with their smaller, faster backs is exactly
yeah,
that. They get them outside zones and they are two of the top fantasy backs on the same team, which is never heard of. So
exactly.
you gotta
And
take some.
like you saw his talent on the 60-yard catch. He like came back, got the ball, spun out of a tackle, and just bolted for 60 yards. That's the kind of guy you have in Pollard, but they're not using him in the correct way, and it's just very annoying to constantly have to deal with as a fantasy owner of him. Um, but Keenan Allen looked great. obviously you're starting him in your slot.
He's
Maybe you're
another one.
not, but most people are.
I know this sounds bad because I say this about all my players at this point, but it's the truth because I make sure I draft players like this. But Keenan Allen is genuinely the best one out there. Like whenever Justin Herbert was in trouble, he would throw to Keenan Allen. Like and Keenan Allen would make the play. Like there was one there was like 2nd and 24 or something, and it was just this. Keenan Allen wasn't even open. He threw it to him, and Keenan Allen somehow almost got the first down. Like he genuinely separates himself, and the Chargers keep charging. Which another thing I don't understand is just watching this game from like football standpoint. Justin Herbert. The only issue with the Chargers offense last night is that the Cowboys were getting to him super quick because they have one of the best pass rushes in the league. There's nothing you can do about that. Like they just genuinely have that good of a pass rush. So when you have Austin Eckler, the best receiving back in the league, just have him continuously go in short routes and just keep feeding him the ball. Get it out quick so he doesn't have to deal with the pass rush. And Keenan Allen is one of the best short route run wide receivers in the league. Like you just got to get the ball out fast. The Chargers keep charging. There's no reason they should have lost this game and scored only 17 points. It's tough to watch.
Yeah, Eckler did not have the best of games. Only getting 4 catches kind of weird to me because of exactly the situation, like you said. Like he should have gotten like 8 or 9 catches. He had less than 2 yards of carry. Just a very weird game out of him. And Dak with a very weirdly good game, getting like 2 touchdowns, combining for over 300 yards. CD Lamb obviously is him. But the weird one was that Michael Gallup had the most targets on the team with 10, and CD Lamb and Pollard came up next with 7. So kind of weird to see the target share for the Cowboys.
Yeah,
But
I think that was just situational. CeeDee Lamb's obviously the best receiver, and he showed it last night. And I know I've been low on CeeDee Lamb's at the beginning of the season, but once again, that's not on him as a player. That's on Dak as a quarterback and the Cowboys as an offense. He truly looked amazing last night too. He had one route where he like broke the defender's ankles, and I was just like, "Yep, this dude's good." Like if he's on another team, he's getting like 12 receptions last night instead of 7. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It did hurt to see Dak Prescott do well, though. I'm one of his biggest haters. So, but he did genuinely look good last night, and he used his legs when he needed to. He looked young again. He did. I think it's because he knows his job is in jeopardy, but that'll get somebody going. So, fair enough, I guess.
Probably.
Also, that one play that Tony Pollard took for 60 yards out of what should have been like almost nothing was a crazy play. I don't know if you saw it, but
I did. It was awesome to wake up and see that. Really annoying though because I had like a $5 bet to win like $80, and all I needed was 67 Pollard rushing yards, and I woke up and saw 80 at first, and I was like, "Let's go, we hit!" And I realized it was receiving, and I was like, "Fuck!" Like so close, but it was definitely nice to have a good bounce back week from Pollard, even if it was just because he had a one catch for 60 yards sort of thing. It was lovely. But real quick, I just want to point out we pointed out some players that you want to start this week. Let's point out some players you don't want to start next week. And anybody on the New England Patriots, you're not starting them. I don't care if you have a very deep league. They've looked terrible. Buffalo's coming to town. I wouldn't start any of them. The Colts, I would be wary starting Michael Pittman. I know we talked highly of him, but now they're facing the Cleveland Browns, so kind of a rough one. Any players that you think absolutely don't start next week?
Honestly, you hit on the big two. Kendrick Bourne had a great week last week.
Right? That was weird. He had like 10 catches.
Yeah, but I would not start anyone on the Patriots, anyone on the Colts. Honestly, there's a lot of teams that I'm feeling that way about right now. I wouldn't expect too much from the Browns offense on the other side either, unless you want to test out some of the running backs, maybe. There's a lot of weirdly good matchups this week where people might get shut down a little more. Like the Jags Saints, I think it's going to be a little rough on both sides. The Jags defense has been solid and weirdly making up for their sputtering offense. And the Giants defense is actually another defense that I think has looked really good this year. And if their offense could do even just a little bit more, would their record look a lot different. So I know you said you'd like starting Commanders this week. I would not. In fact, I have Brian Robinson in a lot of leagues, and like I said, I'm trying to go out and get him. But this week is not a week that I'm super excited for him.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, it's just be wary starting those players, and a lot of the totals for like a lot of games are like under like 40 points, which is crazy to see, and it's not something that I've really seen before. But we have a lot of games that are just like you said, good matchups all around. So just be doing your research and wary of who you're starting and who you're sitting, and make sure you're looking into those matchups a little bit more. Um, but yeah, I think that's it. Unless you have anything to add other than the Saints are beating the living crap out of the Jags in 2 days.
Um, as much as I would love to congratulate you on that happening, um, I'm going
It's
to tell
not.
you really quick to
It's not.
hold the L.
It's not happening. I know it's not. I know it's not.
I am ready for the Steelers to beat the Rams this week, though, and then lead our division. So that's fun.
We'll see about that. I think
Which
Cooper
actually,
Cup's going to put up 200 on you.
oh no, listen, hear me out. Cooper Cup's going to put up 150. Puka Nakua's going to put up 100. But we're still weirdly going to win and pull it out on defense at the end of the game somehow. So I'm just ready for that.
True. That is just what the Steelers seem to do, no matter what. Like even against the Ravens last week, it was just like, yeah, you guys are losing, and then all of a sudden, Kenny Pickett changed the play from Matt Canada's probably shit call, won the game, and TJ ended it. Like came out of nowhere. Ravens were like 95% projected to win. I was like, what just happened?
The accuracy of
I'm like, have you seen the video of Matt Canada not reacting like at all when they got the game-winning touchdown?
No, I have not. You got to send me that when you get a
Dude,
chance.
it's all over Instagram. It's the funniest thing because he's just like watching, and everyone is cheering behind him, and he is just stone-faced, and it is hilarious.
So funny. I'm telling you, it's like I genuinely when I watch the games, I'm predicting every play because I just know exactly what we're gonna do. It's just so predictable. And, like as a defensive coordinator, when you get paid millions of dollars to go research the other team and figure out what the best thing for your defense to do is, sometimes I don't understand how we score any points. Genuinely. Well, actually, I do is because we actually do have good playmakers, which with the right calls would actually do quite some damage. And Deontay Johnson is back this week, so that's something to think about with both George Pickens and Deontay Johnson. And Fryermuth is back too. So we got all our weapons back, both fantasy wise and football wise. That's got some implications.
Hell yeah! So hopefully that means you guys have a chance of winning. Who knows? We'll see. All right. Well, that is our week 6 recap. We'll probably do another recap next week. We'll see if we can shoot out an episode before Sunday, just with probably just like some best bets and diving into the matchups a little bit deeper. But thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. Have a good day. And remember to bet all of your mortgage payments on the Saints over the Jaguars. Thank you.
And to bet all your mortgage payments on Tyreek Hill breaking 2,000 receiving yards.
True. If you don't already have some money on that, like what are you doing? I don't. I need to have some money on that. All right. Peace.
Peace.